All right, good morning. Got the most requested book review. 100% of all the comments that requested a book review requested Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. By the way, I gave you something to look at other than just my head floating in front of a blank wall like the other book reviews. So I moved on and did a couple other book reviews before. I'm saying book reviews a lot. Before I got to this one because I kind of didn't want to do this one yet because it falls into a certain category, and it falls into the rarest category of all, actually. Rarer than books that I dislike. We might have to review some of those in the future. Rarer even than books that I haven't finished. I finished all of them, but if I skip ahead because of disinterest or poor quality, I consider that I didn't finish the book. So rarer than books I dislike, rarer than books I haven't finished is the category of books that were exceeded in quality by the film adaptation. And Interview with the Vampire is a good book. It's smooth writing, atmospheric, memorable folks wandering through the pages, compelling situations. It's lacking in the area that makes books special. And that's why I wanted to do a few of those books first before I got to this one, so we'd have a contrasting comparison. And the thing that makes books special to me and the best of all entertainments is a certain subversive drive to the narrative. It's like when you are having this spectacular dream and you wish it would never end, but then you wake up in the middle of it and you don't know how it turned out. And as great as life can be, you're thinking in those first few moments of waking up, oh, I wish I can go back and experience more of that dream or even finish it. And then you maybe try to fall asleep again so you can get back into that dream. Or maybe you have to wake up because the alarm went off and you're disappointed. But in some of the best writing, you can go back into the dream. You can finish the dream. And when it's all over with, if you liked it enough, you can start the dream over again and do the whole thing all over again. So that's what the best reading experiences are like. That spectacular dream that you wish would never end, that you actually can finish and revisit. It's such a great feeling. Such a fun ride. Interview with a Vampire. Enjoyable? It doesn't quite have that subversive narrative drive. It floats around kind of like a drunken butterfly. It lands here, it lands on that situation. And the situations are enjoyable and compelling, and distinct, memorable people are caught up in them. And you do wonder how these scenarios are going to play out. So, again, good reading experience. However, after a little bit, you start to realize that what you're currently reading probably isn't going to have much, if any, effect on what will happen later on. So it starts to feel, I don't know if I would go as far as saying pointless, but it's not as compelling to know that, okay, this is pretty interesting, but when I'm done, that's just it. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. End, start next thing. End, start next thing. Kind of episodic. And You could even say that that's a literary technique. I love it when a book or even a short story, its style and structure kind of illuminates um, the theme. Dan Simmons was great at that in the late 80s and early 90s. You would always come to a point in the book where you realize that the odd structure was relative to what was actually happening in the book. And it's great when you find that type of thing. Uh, just that in this one, you got to come up with a more compelling structure if that is the case, because you could say that their lives are going on forever, and that's what it's about. Their lives are going on forever because they're vampires, and they start to feel like it's all meaningless and pointless. And as you're reading, you get that feeling of, okay, this scenario happened and it's kind of meaningless and pointless now to everything else that's going to happen because now we're just going to move on to the next one. And you could say, well, that's just suggesting what happens in the book. It's suggesting, it's reiterating the theme, it's making the reader experience what the characters are going through. I could come up with a book where the theme is life is boring and repetitive, and then just the whole book is all capital A's, just 400 pages of the letter A all the way through the book. That would illuminate the theme that life is boring and repetitive, but that's not true for everybody, and it wouldn't be very entertaining, would it? I don't think that book's going to get a 5-star review on Amazon. As compelling as it might be for people to read through saying, when are these A's going to end? I don't think the shock of the A's coming to an end would be worth it when you finally got there. So if you're going to have a structure and a style that illuminates your theme, I think it still has to be more compelling and entertaining, because this is for entertainment after all. And having the style and structure of we just go from one episode to the next, and what does it all mean in the end? We just float around like drunken butterflies, and perhaps death is meaningful after all. Perhaps death gives our life meaning because we see that the end is coming, and it puts more emphasis on what happens before the end. Maybe immortality is not what should be sought after. So, again, good episodes, enjoyable to read. Just doesn't have that one single thread that kind of pulls you through the whole experience where you're waiting to see how is this all going to end up, which is what the best books do. It's my wife's favorite book, and she'll probably kill me for doing a review like this about it, but again, it's a good read. You should check it out. It's just lacking in that special quality that books have, which makes them, to me, the most satisfying entertainment of all. It's lacking that which allows the movie adaptation in '94, which does everything that movies do well. That was a more enjoyable experience. The Jim Gaffigan joke. You know what I like about the movie? No reading. One way the book was better, and the movie was well done enough where I don't even remember if this was in the movie because everything was done well, but to see this come up in the book really stood out, and I think it was better than anything in the movie version, was the idea of the old world vampires, because it was such a stunning contrast to the highfalutin, hoity-toity, well-mannered, well-manicured, well-dressed vampires who are traipsing through high society and pirouetting around and, here, have a look at my jewelry and kiss my wrist. Do you have a spot of tea? Yes, let's discuss all manners high class. To go from that to what turns out to be the old world vampires and what they're like Wow, that was a nice surprise. Um, Again, it's just another episode and then we move on from there. But it was a great contrast to come across. I love that part. They're not exactly mingling with the upper echelon and sipping from their wine glasses and cavorting with the high class out into the woods to trick them into perhaps supping upon their wrist for a spot of blood. Nope, the old world vampires are a little more blunt than that. So that's something you have to look forward to. You should read the book first before you see the movie because you'll enjoy it more. So, and the reason that I held this off, even though I'm saying it's a positive experience to read, is because for once I can't just lift my nose in the air and act like those high class, highfalutin, superior vampires and look down my nose upon all other entertainment and say, well, the book was much better. For once, I can't do that, so I'm disappointed in that part of it. But definitely recommended. And you'll find that probably you like the movie a little better, but check out the book first because it's worth it, especially for the old world vampires. I think they would even go over better now with how hot all zombie apocalyptic stuff is because you'll find a lot of similarities. And it's it's a mixture of like 16th century Twilight vampires with the zombie apocalypse is when you've come across the old world vampires. So anyway, I think I've given the book enough pats on the back where my wife won't kill me. And thanks to Jody Long, my first patron. Don't know how long you'll last, or even if you're a real person or just a burner account. But it was nice to see that patron pop up. You can check out my Patreon page if you like this review, or you can check out some of my writing that's also available on this YouTube channel or in its best form on the Patreon page. Until then, see you next time.